Hey folks, glad to have you with me here on a Thursday evening. This is our live event that we've been doing on Thursdays. If you haven't been to any of the previous live events, you may want to go we got some reverb here. Let me shut that down. You may want to go into YouTube or into the Facebook group and watch some of those previous lives, because there's gonna be some continuity to this in terms of talking about various deal structures. So maybe do me a favor, let me know that you're here. Say hi in the comments. If you have questions or anything as we go, I can throw them up on the screen here and then respond to those. But we have had audio visual, even actually tonight we had a little bit. But if you can hear me okay, which I'm not 100% sure you can, then go ahead and say something in the comments so that I am aware and we're working. But okay, I can see that is coming through, so we should be in good shape. So just like this. Hey, Bill, see, Bill must be, Bill's on YouTube. If you're on YouTube, I can see, your name in here. And if you're on Facebook, I cannot. So there's a way to fix that on Facebook, but it would take too much time to go through all the settings on that. So let's jump into it, folks. Let's jump into a little bit about, oh, hey, Mo. He said this is no. It's Mo. Mo, this deal is not too much different than the one that you are working on that we just discussed. It's different in some significant ways, though. So let me put these folks up on the screen. I think that's Lilia there. Hey, Lilia. Hey, Mike. Glad to have you. And that would be the place that you can put any questions in. So again, I've left replays up of the previous events in case you need some refreshers on how we're doing some of these deals. But what I really wanted to point out to you is that, and that's why I made the title of this, No Soup for You, because frequently when you're dealing with sellers, they are not going to have an initially affirmative reaction to what it is that we are trying to accomplish, where we want to buy their house in a certain manner. And when that's the case, we have to know how to react to them. So we go through in painstaking detail all of the granular aspects of handling every question that can possibly come up, every objection that can possibly come up, every question that can possibly come up from a seller. And we provide the optimum answers to those questions so that you can help somebody see what their available options are, ensure that they do or don't want a particular alternative before we move them down the continuum. Note that I said down the continuum. What I'm speaking of is if we can get a deal like at 50, 60 cents on the dollar, sure, we'll take that. Most of the time, you're not going to be able to get those deals. That's a very thin slice of the overall market if you consider the market a continuum. If we can't do that, maybe they owe a lot on the house and they have very little equity and they just want the debt relief, and we can just buy it for what they owe. We don't have to put any money down. We just come in and take over their payments. Well, that's a bigger slice of the market, and that's an area on the continuum. We'll do those deals. What I'm going to talk, and then there's deals where it's free and clear, and they don't want to have the amount of equity that they have in the house mitigated, lessened by all the fees, commissions, discounts, prorations, all the different things, closing costs that have to be paid in order to transact and sell that house and extract that equity from their house. We can give them all their equity if they can be patient in getting it, and we'll pay them for their patience along the way by making monthly payments until we agree to pay them off in full. Okay, so we're on a continuum, right? And people are going to select perhaps some of those alternatives that I just mentioned. But the majority of people are still not going to be down with that. No soup for you. So what do we do in those situations? So this week, I'm going to move to the next area of the continuum. And then next week, I'm going to go even further. You have to know where to go when somebody isn't willing to do the ideal option for us, because we have them on the phone. We have them interested because we're agnostic to what they choose. We have them in a spot where they can see we're not trying to hard sell them on getting the house at 50 cents on the dollar. We're talking them through various alternatives. So they feel a lot better about one of the main things that everybody's going to be concerned about when somebody calls trying to buy their house. Does this person have character? Does this person have integrity? Can I trust this person? Are they authentic? Are they transparent? Or are they just trying to, to beat me down on price, terms, whatever? Well, we're not trying to do any of that. We're going to talk to them about their options and structure a deal that makes sense, where we can profit on it and they can get what they want. So they're going to see our character through the interaction, and they're going to see our competency level, our expertise level through the interaction. And even if they don't like any of the things that we've talked to them about or any of the options that they have available, what you've done is you've established yourself. And I'm not just talking about some fluffy rapport type stuff, but you've established yourself as somebody who's a little bit more likable and somebody who seems to know what they're doing. And because of that, you set yourself up for the other options that aren't as great for us, but they still make us money, that are further down the continuum. Unlike the person who can't get the deal for 50 cents on the dollar and they hang up mad. Okay. You want to have more bullets in your gun. You want to have more tools in your tool belt. That's why we're giving you these additional tools in your tool belt. All right. With that in mind, let's take a look at what we can do when a seller is not down with our plan here. Let me advance. We went through some of this stuff before, some of these previous slides, and I want to take us here. So make this full screen so I can read this better. Okay, good. So look, a lot of you are learning about assignments. Especially if you're not in the coaching program, that would be the only way that we'd have a relationship, because I don't sell a course, because I don't believe that courses are the right way. I think you need the help of a mentor or a coach with all the nuances of the deals. And I want people to be successful. I don't want to have like a high non-success rate, because people are learning from just videos alone. So I'll try to help you in here. 5% of people can be successful doing what a lot of you might be doing if you're just on here watching free videos. But so that's 1 in 20 people. Maybe you're in the 1 in 20. But if you're among the 19 who aren't going to be successful just watching videos, very few people are, then you might want to consider getting into coaching. And in the coaching, one of the things that we talked about this week was why I prefer to not assign deals. And here's why. Cheers, by the way. Here's why. Particularly terms deals, like a wholesale deal where you're getting like, a $200,000 property for 110 and needs 10,000 repairs or something, and you're going to assign the deal for 10 grand. That's fine. Go ahead and assign that if you don't want to rehab it. Now, if you rehab it yourself, you can get the private money. You can get paid as big. It's so easy, actually, because people will give you private money for that all day long, and it won't even be that painful to do. I'm not talking about hard money. You can get the equivalent of an assignment fee immediately out of the financing that's going to sit on the house. And we show people how to repair, renovate, what to do to get it renovated, and then just retail it. And then you'll get another payday that'll even be higher. So even in those deals, I prefer to not assign. But not everybody wants to do that. I understand. I'm okay, actually, if you want to assign, just low price deals that you got a good contract on and you just want to get paid and move on to the next one. That's fine. But there has been a improvement, I would say, in the understanding. There's also been a gigantic increase in misunderstanding because of bad information that's put out there, or information that gets extrapolated the wrong way by the person reading or listening to information. But we have an increased interest in people who are willing to and to approach sellers and try to get deals that don't require a massive discount in price, but there's some sort of creative terms that are available. Either we're taking over debt, subject to an existing mortgage, we're creating an owner financing structure, a seller financing structure, could be a lease purchase, which is one of the things I'm going to talk about tonight. And instead of actually closing on that yourself and then reselling it and effectively being in the middle, because it's a terms deal, right? Like the cash out to the seller doesn't happen until later in a creative finance deal or a terms deal. That seller is going to be taking payments for a period of time until they're paid off in full. Well, people are locking those up and then assigning those contracts. And what I'm just going to suggest to you, without going into all the gory detail with all the examples of the things that can go wrong, is I don't think that's, generally speaking, a good idea. I would rather stay in the middle. The reason is it's hard enough to get the deal in the first place. So if you get the deal and you're the way I teach it, you're going to be collecting a lot of money up front. So you have plenty of buffer zone if something goes wrong with your buyer. What we don't want to have happen is we link our buyer up with our seller. Usually the seller is not super sophisticated in real estate. They just want the problem to go away. So we come in and solve that. And often the buyer is not super sophisticated in real estate either. They just wanted a place to live. But when you exit the scene stage left, Heavens to Murgatroyd style or Snagglepuss style, if you know who I'm talking about, then you now have a seller and a buyer where something goes wrong and you're gone and they get at loggerheads. Guess who looks like the a-hole? You. Not to just one party, but to both parties. And it's not a good look. Now, that's not the reason to not do it, but it is a reason to not do it. The real reason to not do it is profitability. If I have a problem with my buyer, they go bye-bye. I work that out because I already have plenty of money from the deal. The minute I put them in, I have plenty of money sitting there. I can get them out of the property and still have profitability from that initial payday and then go get another one without having to go find another deal. You spend all this time trying to get a deal. You've got the deal. See it through to the end. And if it doesn't close in the end the way that you originally planned, you end up with more money. I showed you there, again, you should go, if you haven't seen the other videos in sort of these event series, either on YouTube or on Facebook, go watch the one. I showed $1 million of deals in the last year where some of the houses I went through like 3 people, but I got paid more as a result of staying in the middle without any extra work than assigning these deals out. So I prefer to stay in the middle. Okay. Now, some of you aren't going to listen to that. So I want to talk to you about how you do it if you don't listen. It's not that you don't listen, but some of you just, there are going to be deals where you just rather assign them. So this was an example that comes from the previous week, but I'll kind of refresh you on it. So let's say we're talking to a seller and the house is worth basically what's owed on it. There's no equity in it. Maybe they put like 3% down on the house. There's no equity. There's no real equity in the house. Maybe the value of the house has even gone down. A lot of markets have seen that now. Not all the markets in America, but a lot of markets have actually seen values go down, exceeding what they put down as a down payment on the house. So they're actually underwater, not deeply underwater like 2008 style, but underwater. We can buy those deals all day long. So if we're like, but you have to ask yourself, well, why do I want to stay in the middle on a deal that I'm underwater on? Well, I'll show you why, but here's the thing. If I can show that seller that, look, you're not going to get any money out of this house, obviously, even if you sell it at tippity top of the market, you're a few months out from making that happen. A realtor's got to get paid. There might be some concessions you have to make on condition. There is going to be some upkeep maintenance over that period of a couple of months. You're going to be making payments for a couple of months, and you got to pay a realtor commission, a juicy one usually. And that means you might end up having to come to the close with money. Whereas we close on this thing next week, we're just going to take over the payments on your loan. The loan stays in your name, but we'll take over the payments until we get it paid off in full. You can mosey on down the road, and we'll be improving your credit all along the way with green check marks on your credit every time we pay it. Happens like clockwork. So it's a better deal for you than letting it go, handing in the keys, all these things that trash your credit. And it's probably a better deal for you than taking money out of your 401k just so you could sell your house, which is a situation that a lot of people are in. Now, of course, your name is going to stay on the loan until we pay you off in full. Now, this is where people sometimes freak out, or their lawyers freak out. Not that we can't overcome it. Again, look, get on a Zoom call and get into the coaching program where we can go through the granular detail, because we can't, I can't convey all 30 years of experience and knowledge that I have in real estate just doing like 30-minute Facebook Lives and YouTube things. You need coaching, and there's nuances to every little deal. But oftentimes they'll be like, okay, well, I mean, as long as that's legal and everything, and then they go, and it is totally everywhere, but they go, and no lawyers, I mean, there'd be some dumbass lawyers who, I don't mean to say it like that, but a lot of lawyers shoot from the hip, and they didn't even actually look at what the statutes are on various things, and they don't really know what they're giving advice, but it's not really based in the law. It's based in what could go wrong. So that's fair, right? In other words, it's not illegal to take over somebody's debt. It's just that the bank has the right to call the loan due, because something called the due on sale clause. If that deed transfers, the bank can call the loan due. So the seller gets told that, and then the attorney's like, yeah, you don't want to do that, which is good advice for a lot of people, right? But is the attorney going to make their payment for them? Is the attorney going to come up with the money for them to get this house sold through a realtor so that they can move to wherever they got to move to? Probably not. So, all in all, somebody still has to make a decision. But you will oftentimes have a seller say, no soup for you. I can't do that. I cannot give up this house, give up the deed to this house until the loan is paid off. I'm not comfortable with that. We take them through all the ways that we can make them feel more comfortable, but they're still not comfortable with it. Totally fair, right? Happens all the time. So if that is the case, we're ready to move them down the continuum. We're ready to even move the attorney down the continuum. And that's where what we might do is we might say, okay, well, is that the only thing that's holding you back? If we solve for that, you're good. And if they're like, that's the only thing I'm worried about, I don't, because my lawyer told me if you don't pay, I'd have to foreclose to get the house back, but I can't even foreclose because I'm no longer even on anything but the loan. I don't even have, there's all kinds of things that can come up. So, or they're just screwed because we're not paying, and they don't want to have to go through all that. So what we suggest to them is, if we can solve for the issue of you not having to get a deed back, are you good with us effectively taking over the payments on this? And then you'll sell us the house when we pay off that full, the mortgage that exists on the house. Well, what are you talking about? Well, tell me about that. This is where we might say, well, what we'll do is we'll just rent the house from you. We'll rent the house from you. So you retain the deed, you retain the ownership. When people rent their house, their name's still. Okay. I think I'm back. I don't know why that happens. All right. So y'all should be able to hear me now, I assume. Says that you can. So we'll say, hey, we'll just rent the house from you. Obviously, name stays on the loan because you still own the house, and you still own the house. when we're ready to pay off the loan in full, we'll do that. So we'll rent the house from you, and you're going to give us an option to buy it during the term of our lease. Now, since there's no equity in the house, the price is going to be the loan balance at the time we close. That gives the equity a chance to catch up, where I can actually refinance this off. Okay, but again, same situation. You're out of it now. You don't have to bring money to close. You're getting, let me just make sure here. Oh, good. Okay, somebody's, see, here's the way it shows up on Facebook. Facebook user, I can hear you. So somebody heard me. I'll just stay in this look here. So what's happening is we now are able to let that seller mosey on down the road. They still own the house, but we control it because we're renting it from them, but we have the option to buy it for the mortgage balance at the time that we actually close with usually our buyer, or rarely, but we might refinance it off ourselves in some unique situations. So how do you deal with that if you don't want to stay in the middle? So let's kind of take a look at what that would look like. Okay. Let's say the seller's also like, hey, this was the situation that Mo brought up. Actually, let me get that off the screen here. The situation that Mo brought up today, in our elite coaching client call that we just had prior to this. Sorry, guys. I don't know why my mic keeps going in and out like that. I know it's going on mute, but it's not me hitting the mute. So I think I'm back. So the 5 years was a requirement of the seller because he has some other things he wants to do. He's worried about debt to income ratio, all kinds of things that we can solve. But this deal, we may get it longer, but it's 5 years right now. So let's say we have a situation like that. So what we're going to do is we're going to rent the house for 5 years for the payment, and we're going to have an option to buy it for the loan balance at the time that we exercise our option. It's going to be understood, there's no equity in the house. It's going to be understood from the seller that we're not living in the house. We're going to be putting one of our prospective buyers in the home while we help that individual get qualified for a loan that ends up canceling out the seller's underlying loan. That might happen way before 5 years. And then our payments to the seller begin once we've installed our buyer, so that we don't have to come out of pocket at all. We're going to pick up a down payment that allows us to pay the closing costs for us, for the seller, and then make the first month's payment to the seller. And we'll give ourselves 90 days to do that because there's no equity in it. There's not really a great reason to be in the deal. So we're going to go see what the market says. And when the market provides us a buyer through our marketing, this is another thing, guys. You got to know how to market these things properly. More granular detail that gets taught really only through coaching. I am going to do a session on that, but there's a lot to it, and you're not going to get it from just 1.5 hour video. I'm just going to say right now, I don't want to oversell the value of the Facebook group or the YouTube channel. I mean, it's cool. You can check it out. It kind of gets you primed, but if you're not going to get a coach, be careful. Get some kind of mentor to help you with this. Doesn't have to be me. But get somebody that actually knows what they're doing, not one of these nimrods in these communities that talk a whole bunch of smack online. They don't know anything. They're driving like a Pinto from 1975. You can go on their profile and see that they ain't living large. That's not who you want to be taking advice. Folks, do not take advice from poor people on financial issues. I don't even know why I have to say that, but it seems to happen all the time. Okay. No offense to anybody who's poor, but you should be getting lifted up in terms of understanding how to make money so that you're not in that situation again. And you shouldn't be getting lifted up by people who are really not that much better off than you. When there's people who are way better off than you. I'm not even just talking about me. There's all kinds of coaching opportunities out here. Some of them suck. Some of them are, a little gangster, not really they're in it for selling information marketing. You're not going to get good coaching, but at least do your, at least go with somebody who has actually produced results. Okay. Not somebody who's chiming away like a little Pac-Man in a, in a community. Folks, I don't even want to say this, but forget it. Yeah. I don't want to get blowback because I don't like to be a hater. I don't want to talk shit about, excuse my language, but I don't want to talk any smack about some of the other stuff that goes on. I did plenty of that a couple of weeks ago. You can watch that video without calling anybody's name out, but there's just a lot of completely ridiculous advice that's out here, and people buy it hand over fist for some reason. Get good coaching so that you can learn how to market these properties. Okay. That's one of the things that we're going to be doing. Now, let me show you what happens here. What's in it for our buyer? Like, why are we so easily able to sell these properties? Put yourself in the shoes of a buyer who can't qualify for a bank loan, but wants to live in a beautiful house in a beautiful area, but they don't qualify for a bank loan right now. Maybe they just got married. Maybe they have a kid on the way. Maybe they got a couple kids. Maybe they want to be in a school district. Maybe they don't want to be relegated to an apartment home. These buyers are lined up for the properties that we get in the ways that I just described. They don't have to wait on a bank. They can move in right away. They don't have to wait for a year or two to improve their credit. Now, in this example that I'm giving you, if the house has negative equity, meaning more is owed on it than it's worth, well, why would a buyer do that? Because we're going to have a price that's way more than it's worth. They look on Zillow and they're like, hey, why are you selling this to me for $450 when I can see on Zillow it's only worth $380? Now, that's a little bit more of an extreme example, but we could do that all day long and buyers will line up for that. Why? Why will they line up for that? Because we can lease them the house in a lot of cases for the entire loan duration, because we took it over subject to an existing loan that has 25 years left on it. As long as they can afford the payments that we set up for them, they're golden. They don't care about the price. People do not buy houses based on the price. Write that down. People do not buy houses based on the price. You think they do, but they don't. People buy houses based on the payment. People buy houses based on what they're signing up for is a 30-year payment plan almost 100% of the time. The retail owner-occupant buyers, they're signing up for a 30-year payment plan. Can I afford the payments? And will I be able to afford the payments? It's not the price. It's how the price interacts with what the payment is going to be, which is obviously a function of interest rates. Well, interest rates are 8% now. The loans that we're taking over, a lot of times they're 3 and 4%. You know the difference on a 30-year loan on a $500,000 house? I mean, I don't have a calculator in front of me right now, but just kind of doing it in my head, at 3-something%, you're looking at $2,100 a month. At 8%, what we just touched, you're looking at like $3,800 a month. Well, on a debt to income ratio basis, at $2,100 a month, you got to make like only 70 grand a year. To pay that $3,800, you got to be making 120 grand a year. A lot of people have been knocked out of the housing market, but here you come, bringing back the days of old, bringing back 2020, 2019, letting somebody come in and make a payment that is more aligned with, let's call it old times. A lot of people would love to do that. They don't care about the price. They care about the payment, and they care about moving into a house. Do not underestimate the power of the American dream. Do not underestimate the power of the American dream for home ownership. Even though they don't own it right away, they control it. They have an option to buy it. It's basically as if they own it, at least during the time that they are leasing it, until they say, bye-bye, I don't want to do it anymore. If a buyer happens to be worried about where the market's going to go, well, they have an option to buy it. That's why it's called an option. They don't even have to exercise it. They don't have any obligation like they do if they go sign up for a bank loan. Or you want to sign up for a bank loan right now at 8% with prices as bubblicious as they are, where maybe it comes crashing down. people are setting themselves up for potential failure and basically creating, a pathway to incredible wealth for us if that kind of thing happens. I'm not clairvoyant. I'm not making any predictions about where the market's going or isn't going, but that's certainly a possibility, isn't it? Either way, we make money because we're both buyers and sellers. These are the things you got to learn. These are things that a coach can help you with. Also, the buyer, this is what I just said. The buyer might want to have an optional closing in case the market, was to take a downward turn, or also maybe they think the market's going to appreciate upward and they can have their profit locked in before they commit. I made that mistake on a couple of deals where I gave somebody, an option price that was higher than the market value in, say, 2017. So maybe I give them $399 as a price. It was only worth $369 in 2017. By the time they exercised their option in 2019, we saw incredible appreciation. If houses were $429, but here I am selling it to them for $399. Why'd I do that? Buyers kind of get the benefit of that if you do it that way. Now I'll show you how to mitigate that, or how to change that, where you give them tiered pricing, which is something that we can do, but I'm not going to really do that in here. It's too granular. We can't get all the way down to the micro details. Y'all need the micro details when you go do this stuff. Let me see how much stuff we want to, more stuff we want to do here. Actually, sorry. Let's do this one. Now, why would we transact in this fashion? You see, one of the quickest ways to profit and get a check in real estate today is to go get a deal like I just described. You can either assign it, stay in the middle, get a non-refundable option fee from your buyer. It's just as quick, but way easier to get a deal done like that than it is to go get someone to sell your house at 50, 60 cents on the dollar. And there's tons of repairs. And then you got people having to estimate all this stuff. People can see the house is in good condition. You get it locked up and you sell it right away. You can churn these things way faster than the typical wholesale deals. That's why it is a fallacy to think that you ought to start with wholesaling junkers. That is a fallacy. If you're looking to assign contracts because you don't want to stay in the middle, you're better off learning this and then assigning these kinds of deals, even though I'll convince you to not assign them. We end up having no cost of closing the sale because the money that we're getting down from our buyer, who's not qualified for a bank loan, but who has money and has the ability to afford a monthly payment, is paying us to simultaneously close with the seller, where we're paying the closing cost and whatever we have to give the seller. And we walk away with the difference. Very minimal risk to us. Our name isn't on any loan. We're not using any of our own cash. How do you lose when you have no cash or credit in the deal? And the total addressable market of both sellers and buyers for this is absolutely enormous. And like I said, these can be among the easiest deals to make with sellers once you learn how to do it. It literally allows us to transact on deals where other investors were told, no soup for you. We don't have to pass on that. Well, let me suggest an alternative. We don't have to get our hands dirty making repairs. We don't have to be concerned about due on sale clauses, even with owner financing. And if you do things kind of the way that I show you in our elite coaching program, you certainly don't have to on lease purchases because the deed didn't transfer, right? And maybe most importantly, well, not most importantly, but importantly, we get to deal with the best houses in the best neighborhoods, the houses that everybody wants, but no one can get. How much do you love this business? Somebody liked my use of the word Nimrod. I remember using it. I just don't remember why. But yeah, there's a lot of Nimrods out here for sure. Anyway, no offense. Don't be a Nimrod and just look at the lives and look at the YouTube channel. Get on a Zoom call. Let's talk and see if coaching might be right for you. If it's not, I can at least direct you to some other resources where you can, try to do the best you can with free help. And if you're not going to take advantage of that, I don't want to call you a Nimrod, but that would be Nimrod-like behavior, wouldn't it? You got an opportunity for a free call with someone who's made, tens of millions of dollars in real estate over 30 years? And or would you rather just maybe you shouldn't do it? Maybe you should go into Schmendrick City over there, get into a community, and listen to a bunch of people who have nothing better to do than to post into Facebook about how they did this and how they did that and how they saw this video and this person said this and this person said that. So I'm an expert. I know. Getting their rocks off because they think they're an expert because they watch some videos, but they haven't done anything in the real world. What's better, that or getting on a call with me where I can actually try to help direct you? It's not going to be some hard sell. There's no hard sell. You actually have to interview with me. You got to convince me that I should take you in, because I don't charge very much for this coaching. I don't take everybody in. If you get on this call and start acting like I'm trying to hard sell you, we just get off the phone real quick, because I just want to hear about your background. I want to hear about your work ethic. I want to hear about, what kind of aptitude you might have. You don't have to know anything about real estate, but I can sometimes be a fairly good judge of what your aptitude is. And if I feel like I can help you, then we can get down. And if you want to get down and start making some money, then, at least take that initial step. Otherwise, don't. Continue being a job slave. Continue trading your time for money because you like the health insurance that you get from your employer. Folks, it doesn't have to be like that. You're so conditioned to, stay in this job because it's so scary to do something else. But, I got to ask you, if you're not happy with your financial situation right now and you want better and you want more time and you want more things that you can do with your kids, you want to be able to give to charities more, or you just want to make more money for yourself, feel more comfortable in retirement, you got to ask yourself, what's riskier? Doing nothing and everything stays status quo and nothing changes? Or jump on a Zoom call and potentially get yourself in a position where someone can handhold you through a lot of deal making to make an absolute fortune. It happens all the time. I'm not going to sell you on it. You got to take the next steps. All right, everybody. I kept you a little bit too long tonight. Hopefully the audio wasn't too much of a pain in the neck. I don't believe that I see any additional questions in here. So as I said before, go in and watch some of the previous trainings in here. It'll probably help you. And just want to let you know that I appreciate y'all. Y'all have a good evening. Everybody take care.